On your screen are 4 pro wrestling shows from the week of March 15th. Each one has a counter displaying how many times the director cut from one camera to another. Very often when a wrestler collides with another or an object or almost any surface, the director cuts to another camera. This leaves the wrestlers in different places on your screen as well as different locations relative to the camera. If I try to watch this with too many cuts, I literally get a headache. These days, I'm honestly listening to more wrestling than I'm watching. And when I do watch, it's usually AEW Dynamite. But on March 23rd, I turned on AEW Dark. I hadn't seen it in months, but I turned it on for some background watching while I was job hunting, and I occasionally glanced up at it. I began noticing a lot of the moves did not have cuts on them, so I went back to the week before that to compare the first minute of each main event from the big 2 shows of both promotions. Now, that's 1 minute done. I feel the need to point out a couple of things. Despite the high overall total, this shot that the Raw clip ended on lasted for over 10 seconds, the longest one. But I also feel the need to point out that the shot that Dynamite ended on, it lasted for literally over a minute as it followed the 2 wrestlers out into the crowd. AEW is looking a lot better than it would have just a few months ago, I believe. So this leads to the question, what would I like wrestling to look like? I just got back into it a few years ago. I hadn't watched it in almost 20 years. And I started watching New Japan Pro Wrestling. I wanted to show you the first minute of a match that many call one of the best ever between Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega. But they didn't even touch each other until after the 50-second mark. So I'm going to skip ahead into the match. It lasts, I believe, about an hour. And I'm going to actually include a minute segment that even includes a mistake by New Japan. But pay attention to the camera cuts. They don't typically cut to another camera during a moment of impact. What you'll see is action, and the camera more commonly cuts in pauses between the action. When you can't see something, they even change the camera angle so you can. This to me is how I want to see wrestling. Now you may think I'm crazy or just way too picky for feeling this way, despite the fact that it literally causes me headaches. And I'm no expert. I do have a history in producing TV news, but live events admittedly are pretty rare. So let's get a quote from someone with just a little more experience filming action.
Even the editing is tricks. When they do the punch things, boom, cut. Then second shot, from here, boom, again. It's wrong. Because the film by film, the inch by inch, the audience, the eyes contract cannot that fast to change. When you suddenly, boom, boom, you change the second film, the audience just, they're so quick. They know there's a fighting going on, but they cannot really see very clear what's going on.
I first found that quote on the great YouTube channel Every Frame a Painting. I highly recommend it. And in it, Chan talks about directing and editing a film. He says that when he cuts to another camera, he moves the second shot back a few frames, giving the brain time to catch the action and then follow it through. Now, that's not necessarily feasible with live events, or even those recorded as live, but we do have another option. Long takes and tracking shots go back over 100 years now, but in my mind there's a few examples that really stand out. One is this hospital scene in Hard Boiled. But you take that and you add in something like They Live. It's a fight scene that goes on for a long time in the film, and both guys get their asses kicked. Combine those two together and you get Oldboy. I cannot imagine how many scenes we could trace back to this one. This entire scene lasts 2.5 minutes. It's all one take, and it's amazing. So I've showed you what I think is bad production, and better production. I've even showed you an amazing film that does a great job capturing action. So, what would it look like if you filmed an action movie the way Western wrestling is filmed? Taken 3 has a scene in it where the hero jumps a chain link fence. 7 seconds, 13 cuts. That's not even counting the cut where it shows the dog coming after him, because that's like a whole new event happening. I'm being very kind. That's dumb. Please try not to look like this.